Thank you, Larry, for that really warm introduction and for your strong leadership, filling Kevin Washburn's big shoes and not skipping a beat, which is tough to do. And thank you, Kevin. I see that you're here as well. I want to thank all of you, tribal leaders and tribal youth, for traveling from near and far, for taking red eyes, for driving a long way to share your voices with us. You know, it's amazing to think that this was a novel idea back in 2009, and now we're used to it. And we're going to do everything we can, and we're going to need your help to make sure that it continues year after year, as the President called for in his executive order. So there are many champions for Indian country in this administration, you know that. You just heard from a couple of them. Karen Diver, who stepped into Jody Gillette's big shoes, and of course Cecilia Munoz from the White House. We couldn't be successful if we didn't have their support and their guidance every step of the way. So I very much appreciate their leadership, along with my cabinet colleagues who do come and attend the White House Council on Native American Affairs meeting and do put their best staffers forward to make sure our work continues. And I do also want to thank the deep bench of talent that I've been privileged to work with at Interior. My deputy, Mike Connor, is amazing. Our teammates in the Solicitor's Office, in the Office of the Secretary, and the BIA, and the BIE, and the Office of the Special Trustee, and the National Indian Gaming Commission goes on and on, dedicated to making sure that we're upholding our trust and treaty obligations to all of you and the people that you represent. So this is a lot of work to put on, and I just would like to ask all of you to join me in a round of applause for the people that made this conference happen today. Would you please join me in that? Thank you. And as you see them with their staff name badges and so on, please give them a shout out and some thanks. I also want to recognize someone that's become a friend. He hails from the same state that I do, Washington State, and that is Brian Clattersby. He has been a strong leader for NCAI. He's been a strong leader for the Swinomish Nation. He participated in the White House Council meeting just a few weeks back and brought a very thoughtful voice of the importance of engaging with tribal leaders, and we absolutely will do that both at subgroup meetings and at the White House Council meeting. But as I think back on my 3.5 years so far in this job, and I'm not done yet, I think about, don't worry, I'll still be around. Thank you. I think about that first week and the incredible blessings that I had bestowed on me by tribal leaders, but also the importance of my role in making sure that we don't forget tribal nations across the federal government. That was a very, very powerful meeting. It's probably the only meeting I remember from my first week here, and it stayed with me. I've now visited, I think, 40 or so, maybe a few more reservations, but I've met with many, many more of you in gatherings like this and smaller gatherings and larger ones around the country. I've been to your schools. I've seen eager children that don't yet understand how the deck might be stacked against them. I've seen crumbling buildings, old books, teachers working really hard to make do with the inadequate supplies or staffing that they find themselves with because it's hard to recruit and retain out on the res. I've been to your ceremonies, your powwows. I've had some wonderful food. I still need to practice my dance moves. I've had difficult meetings with young people as they talked about how they address suicide in their communities, as they step up as leaders and sometimes the first line of defense. I've also met with students who are working hard to learn their traditional language, which wasn't spoken in their home, but they want to renew their culture and they want to renew their traditions. And of course, I've seen thriving businesses, and I've seen a lot of aspirations to create thriving businesses, and that's important to the future of Indian country, and we understand that. So you've helped me understand the challenges of the past and also the hopes for a brighter future. Before I go any further, I do want to address an issue that's on everybody's mind, and that's the Dakota Access Pipeline. I want to acknowledge a thoughtful leader, an individual who commands our respect, and that is Dave Archambault, chairman of the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe. Thank you, Dave. I also want to acknowledge the unprecedented solidarity that so many of you across Indian country have shown to the Standing Rock Sioux over the past weeks through prayerful and peaceful assembly to make your voices heard. So regarding the Dakota Access Pipeline specifically, I appreciate that the Army Corps, the Department of Justice, and the Interior Department have announced a pause while the Army thoroughly evaluates whether to reconsider any of the previous decisions made concerning that project and the Lake Oahe site near Standing Rock. So that evaluation is going to include taking a hard look at the environmental analysis under NEPA, as well as other issues under federal laws. But looking beyond the Dakota Access Pipeline, it's clear that there needs to be a conversation about something much larger than a single pipeline project. How a federal action impacts your land, your water, your sacred sites, your treaty rights, your sovereignty is relevant, it's important, and your voices are important. The President gets this. It's why at the first White House Tribal Nations Conference in 2009, he issued a presidential memorandum that required every department to develop a policy for regular and meaningful tribal consultation. In doing so, he signaled loud and clear that every single agency has a solemn obligation to consult with tribes on potential impact, whether on or off reservation. What we have today is an opportunity to ask ourselves if we are doing all we can to live up to those principles of a nation-to-nation relationship. That's why on Friday, we announced that in October and November of this year, multiple federal agencies will be meeting with tribal leaders across the country to examine what the U.S. government and Congress can do to ensure meaningful, timely, and authentic consultation on future major infrastructure projects. We believe there is an opportunity to improve and ensure that tribal consultations and the voices of Native Americans genuinely inform infrastructure permitting decisions and aren't a check-the-box exercise or an afterthought. And that's why in the coming days, we'll be formalizing a memorandum of understanding among agencies to ensure that treaty rights are part of agency decision-making related to natural resources. Thank you. So I guarantee you, my colleagues and I do look forward to working with you to develop a path forward for genuine, robust, and thoughtful collaboration, and I know that we've got your commitment to work with us on this. So you all realize that I'll be turning into a pumpkin in this job around January 20th, 2017, as the President rounds out his term. And I know from talking to many of you that permanency in the transition between administrations is top of mind to all of us. We want to make sure that the gains we've made together won't be lost, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that that happens. So that means we've got to solidify the work of the White House Council as envisioned in the President's executive order. The executive order will continue unless a future president consciously undoes it, and our voices will be very important in making sure that it doesn't get undone. It includes engaging senior career staff members in every single agency to ensure that good work continues. Cecilia referenced Morgan Rodman. His job is executive director of the White House Council, and he will be in close contact with the senior career staff throughout agencies to keep the work going. It also includes working with transition teams for both presidential candidates before the election and the winning team after the election to share our priorities and our lessons learned and make sure that they know how important this is. I will personally be conveying to the next Interior Secretary the importance of our work together, the White House Council, and their role as chair. But I'll also say that a smooth transition needs your help too. That meeting you had with me my first week on the job needs to happen for my successor, their first week on the job. You need to bring your voices to the table to reinforce the importance of the nation-to-nation relationship at the same level you've done throughout this administration, with agencies along with members of Congress. Because of your voices and because of your commitment to your people, together we have turned a new page on the relationship between our nations. I'm proud of the progress that we've made together and proud that we've followed that North Star that we've talked about over and over again, self-determination and self-governance. So I can't do justice to all the accomplishments that we've made in these 8 years in the short remarks or the short time that I have, but there's a few things of which I think we can be particularly proud, so brace yourself for a few fast facts. First, The President has worked to make sure that investing in Indian country is not just a phrase, but a priority that's reflected in the budget put forth every year, which includes full mandatory funding for contract support costs now and in future years. Second, this administration has hit the reset button with a renewed commitment to uphold our trust and treaty obligations to tribal nations. We're moving beyond decades of litigation to resolve longstanding tribal trust, management, and accounting claims, thanks to incredible work and commitment by the Justice Department under the leadership of both Attorney Generals Holder and Lynch. Together, we have settled a record number of tribal trust lawsuits, including the $3.4 billion Cobell settlement and the $940 million RAMA settlement related to contract support costs, and so many more. We've also re-energized our commitment to meeting the critical need for water in Native American communities, with the President settling 6 historic water rights agreements that will deliver water to communities, some for the first time ever. And there's 2 pending agreements and 1 amendment to legislation that we fully support, and we're going to push hard to get that through Congress very soon. Third, thanks to the great work of Director Mike Black, we broke the logjam on homeland restoration that we inherited when the President first took office. We've restored more than 470,000 acres into trust since 2009 to make your nations whole again. We are committed to reaching our goal of 500,000 acres by the end of this administration. We're on a roll. We got to continue that because it is very, very important for all of you. And we finalized a rule for the first time ever to allow the Interior Department to take land into trust for federally recognized Alaska Native tribes. Thank you. Many of you have signed agreements with us on the Cobell settlement, over 40 of those for the buyback program. Because of your work with members of your community, we've restored the equivalent of 1.6 million acres of tribal land to trust, and we have surpassed $900 million in payments to individual landowners. But our work won't be done when the money runs out or the program sunsets in 2022. So we're going to work through with Congress to extend the program. We're going to need your help to be able to do that, but we know our work won't be done. We're also working to make sure that when you have the land, you've got the authority to decide what to do with it. So some of you have signed up under the Hearth Act. We encourage that, underscoring your commitment to self-determination. The BIA has overhauled antiquated leasing and rights-of-way regulation to reduce bureaucratic red tape so you can build homes and businesses. The Park Service finalized a gathering rule to promote tribal traditions and practices on public lands. And we've engaged in very productive discussions with a number of you on how we can engage you and your people in managing the public lands and waters under our stewardship. And in the spirit of the Obama administration's commitment to the right of self-determination for Indigenous people, I want to highlight that for the first time in our history, we have created a pathway for reestablishing a government-to-government relationship with the Native Hawaiian community, the only Indigenous people, yes, the only Indigenous people in the U.S. that had no process for formal recognition, and you brought your voices to the table, and that was very, very helpful. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, we're investing in the next generation of Indian country. That includes addressing the systemic issues that challenge youth and families in your communities, like the good work underway in the presidential promise zones that are being piloted at Pine Ridge, Choctaw, Turtle Mountain, and Spokane. That includes keeping families together and safeguarding Native children from undue separation from their families and their cultural community by strengthening the Indian Child Welfare Act. That includes not accepting the status quo. Thank you. Thank you. That includes not accepting the status quo that has allowed Bureau of Indian Education funded schools to be some of the lowest performing schools in the country. So with the help of people like Anne Marie Bledsoe Downs, who stepped up as interim leader of that operation, and many of the career staff there, we're helping tribes take control of your own education because you know what's best for your children. We're partnering with businesses to provide tools and technology for the kids. We are investing in crumbling buildings and infrastructure so children can focus on lessons and not on a leaking roof. And as you know, that is very real in many places across Indian country. We have good teachers, we're training them, we're hiring more good teachers, and we're doing our best to retain them. And we're developing a framework to bring Native language and cultures back into schools where they belonged all along. Thanks. So these issues, of course, didn't happen overnight. They happened over hundreds of years, and we're not going to solve them overnight, but we need to do better by our young people. The President cares deeply about this, as do I, and I will continue to be an advocate for Native youth long after I leave this office. So I want a show of hands of the Native youth that are out there today. You raise your hands. Oh, they're all over here. Great. With a few other ones. There are some that would like to be young, but, are young at heart. Tomorrow, you are all going to have a really fun day. You're going to share your ideas and concepts with us. I look forward to participating in that. Toward the end of the day, you're going to be writing a letter called Dear Next President. So those letters are going to be filled with your hopes and dreams. And that's really what this is all about. It's about the next generation. So my hope is that your letters will be a poignant call to action to the next administration. Maybe a bit of a reflection on our journey to this point and a reminder of all that we have yet to do. And we together, tribal leaders, tribal youth, my cabinet colleagues on the White House Council on Native American Affairs, our senior staff, the career staffers in our agencies, and our advocates in Congress must make our voices heard for this progress to continue. So I'd like to end with a profound thank you. Thank you for the warmth with which you've welcomed me into your lives, the openness with which you've shared your traditions and your culture, the wisdom and the honesty that has helped guide me to be the best secretary I could be so far, a few months to go. So I'll be around today and tomorrow, and I wish you all a wonderful conference, and I hope I get a chance to meet those of you that I haven't met. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks. Give me time to recover. Thank you.